there was a day that I got in my car and I got ready to go to work, and I was always really, really frazzled because it was always a rush. You imagine trying to get a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and 5-year-old out the door, dropped off at daycare so you can get to your job, get to the metro, all that. It was always chaotic and crazy. And this particular morning, I strapped the kids in the car, jumped into the driver's seat, put the reverse in, and slammed on the gas. And I heard a loud boom. I was in such a frantic rush, I forgot that my husband's Jaguar was parked directly behind me.
Oh, wow.
And I remember, Brother Bedford, I put the car back into park and I just sat there and I just cried because I couldn't believe that this is what my life had come to, that I'm so disconnected from just the reality of what I'm doing every moment because I'm rushing. I'm always rushing, right? So I'm not living, I'm existing when you're just rushing through and racing through at life every time, all the time.
Welcome to another episode of The Masters of Business. I'm your host, Brother Bedford, and I'm extremely excited for the conversation that I'm about to have today. And as I get older, nothing pleases me more than to have thought-provoking and stimulating conversations with individuals that I love, respect, and admire. And I know that they have profound insights. I don't know if it's as you get older, that's just something you want to be a part of, but this is really a highlight for me. And it's a double highlight for me today. It's on beams, high beams with the interview or the conversation I'm about to have today, because I remember when Dr. Cheryl Wood was just starting our first encounter at the Power Networking Conference. So every time I see an amazing accomplishment or feat that Dr. Woods accomplishes, it just really adds, another level of pride for myself, excitement, because I've been watching the journey. It's something to watch the journey from afar, but then also to be a part of the journey at certain parts. So I'm extremely excited about today. And without further delay, I just want to say thank you, Dr. Cheryl Wood, for joining me for today's conversation.
Well, Brother Bedford, I've been waiting for this moment, and I am so excited and really, truly honored. I have watched you for such a long time and been inspired by you and how you move in the marketplace. And just to have this opportunity to sit and have this conversation it's one of those things on the vision board. So now I get to check that off as a part of one of the things that I've been able to accomplish on my vision board. So thank you so much for having me.
Look, I am so honored, and you're welcome. But really, this is something that I've had on my radar for a while. And just as I've been in the process of reimagining how I wanted to do these interviews, you are always on the list, but I stopped and then I started back and I said, it just didn't feel right. But this feels so right. The subject matter is so right. And you are so right for the type of conversation that we want to have, because I've watched you grow in your mastery of the speaking business. And so I just got a bunch of questions that I want to ask you. And I have your bio here. I'll just point out a couple things. I mean, again, it's such this short window that you've accomplished a lot of these things. You're an international empowerment speaker. Of course, you've done TEDx. I believe you're getting ready to do another TEDx. I think I saw that recently. Best-selling author 14 times. I've seen you do some great work with several books, several book models where you've incorporated other speakers. Of course, you're a master speaker development coach, and you've really trained all over the world. Let's see, South Africa, India, France, United Kingdom, Jamaica, Bahamas, and we can go on and on. You've been on just about every major media platform, from ABC, Radio 1, Forbes Magazine, Essence, Black Enterprise. Some of your clients are the FBI. Most people would be scared to death to go and work in the FBI, but you just went in there and did your thing. And we could go on and on and on. And I just want to let everyone know that the bio will be below this video or somewhere on this page, wherever you're watching it, or if you're just listening to the audio, just look for this interview, subscribe. Make sure that you get all of the notifications, but more importantly, you can just go to Dr. Cheryl Wood's website and get all of this information. I don't want you to not have all of this available to you. And the reason I want it to be available to you, because we're going to discuss Dr. Cheryl Wood's journey, because all of this didn't just happen yesterday. Yeah. But it didn't happen overnight either, right? This has been a journey. So with all of that said, Dr. Cheryl Woods, I want you in your own words, prior to you and I meeting at the Power Networking Conference face to face, can you tell our audience who is Dr. Cheryl Woods?
Okay, so you want me to tell you who I am pre-Dr. Cheryl Wood?
Yes, yes.
So I always give like the personal side, which is I'm a wife and a mother of 3. Now my kids are teenagers. I can't even believe I have 3 teenagers, but you're talking 12 years ago. So they were what, 2, 3, and 5 when I first even thought about coming to any type of entrepreneurial journey. I was working full-time as a corporate legal secretary in corporate America. And I'd done that all of my life because I was good at it. I knew how to do it. And like most people, when you find the thing that you're good at and you make decent money doing it, you stick with it. I was taught by my mom to get a good job, work that good job until you retire. Right. And so that's really what I was trying to do. Now, the reality is the environment I grew up as a young girl was an environment of poverty. So I felt like I was blessed and I shouldn't rock the boat because I had this good job, this good government job, right? And I knew I wanted something more, but I didn't know how, I didn't know what. I just got to a point as a mom, once I had my kids, where my priorities shifted. That's really where the change came. I wanted something different. I wanted to be available more to my kids versus kind of the crazy rat race that I was running in corporate America. And that really just shifted something inside of me to want to explore, at least be curious about what else could be possible for me. So in that space, I grew up in an environment of poverty and scarcity. Didn't ever think that I would be anything connected to a giant in the world or someone who could make great impact. That wasn't my reality. It was just, girl, get a job and get out of poverty. And that's what I did. And I sat in that space for years until I was willing to do something different.
Wow. Wow. So what was the catalyst? I know you said you wanted to do something different. You were working, like you said, a good government job, or what was it that said, okay, I'm getting ready to step out? Because you didn't necessarily have a background in entrepreneurship. Were your parents entrepreneurs or anybody in the family entrepreneurs or business owners?
That's a great question. I just was talking about this on an interview, and I said, in hindsight, my mother had a very, very much an entrepreneurial spirit. So my mother actually worked a full-time job as a manager of a cafeteria for Baltimore City Public Schools for 25 plus years. And she was one of those people who went to work every day. I mean, she was the best worker. She was the worker you really, as a coworker, don't like because she never took a day off. But she always had something like a side gig. So my mother sold Mary Kay. She sold Tupperware. She would sell dinners in our little apartment in the projects. But the house was always spotless, and she always would cook these dinners, and she would do fried fish dinners and chitlin dinners, and people would come there and buy dinners. So in hindsight, I even remember my mother selling encyclopedias. So in hindsight, yeah, my mother was an entrepreneur. She always had something on the side. It just never was her full-time gig. So I think that spirit, I witnessed that early on, that you've got to work hard. You should have something that you have some type of ownership in. And I guess that just kind of, not through words, but through actions, kind of settled into my spirit a little bit.
So what was the side hustle that got you started then? If you were working your job, but then what kind of got you going in that direction? What was your side hustle then?
I did a lot of the same things my mom did. I tried Mary Kay. I didn't do Tupperware, but there's this company called Pampered Chef. And I would go to these people's houses and I would do this demo of this cookware called Pampered Chef. Which is so ironic now that I look back, because I was speaking already. because you had to go to the front of the room in front of these 30 or 40 women who came for this demo, and you had to use oratory skills, and you had to be funny, and you had to be engaging. So I didn't even see that then. And now in hindsight, I'm like, I always was a speaker. I always was a communicator. Even the reason that I was able to be so successful on my job as a legal secretary was because of my communication skills. I just hadn't tapped into it at its fullest potential.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so it was there. And so I did a little bit of a lot of things. Mary Kay, okay, it was okay. I didn't love it. Okay, tapped into Pampered Chef, did it for a little while, didn't love it. I used to do a personal training as a side business. So I got certified as a personal trainer because there's always been something in my spirit where I love helping people become the best version of themselves. I love helping people to see that there's something greater. There's a greater possibility on the other side of something that they're currently in pain with. And it just so happened to be, it used to be a physical transformation. And now the work that I do, it's more of an internal transformation. So I guess it's always been there. I just didn't nurture it so that I could move it along.
Now that's great. Now I want to put a pin in the speaking thing because you actually spoke into a direction I wanted to go into, because I was going to ask you about your speaking and what was the catalyst for that. But as you just mentioned, I guess as you reflected, you've kind of seen that that's been a part of you. You just never zoned in on that as being a talent of yours or a gift of yours to be exploited in the way that you do it now. So we're going to put a pin in it because I want to come back to that point. But I want to talk about meeting you at the Power Networking Conference, because when you came to the conference, our first encounter, I believe you came with Sisters for Sisters Network and our dear friend,
Peggy Morris. Oh, my second mom. I love her.
That's my heart. Love me some Peggy Morris. And you had come to the conference, and you did a pitch, right? You won the pitch contest or for the business plan. I can't even remember what it was. It was an elevator pitch competition. Okay, elevator pitch competition. And you won, but you weren't planning. You didn't come there for that. You were coming in for something else, but then you got thrust into that role and you won. Can you tell us about that experience?
Yes, but if I can go back really quickly and answer the question that you asked me before, because this gets so juicy and I don't want to miss anything. And you asked me what was the catalyst for me getting started. So the catalyst was two things. There was a day that I got in my car and I got ready to go to work. And I was always really, really frazzled because it was always a rush. You imagine trying to get a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and 5-year-old out the door, dropped off at daycare so you can get to your job, get to the metro, all that. It was always chaotic and crazy. And this particular morning, I strapped the kids in the car, jumped into the driver's seat, put the reverse in, and slammed on the gas. And I heard a loud boom. I was in such a frantic rush, I forgot that my husband's Jaguar was parked directly behind me.
Oh, wow.
And I remember, Brother Bedford, I put the car back into park and I just sat there and I just cried because I couldn't believe that this is what my life had come to, that I'm so disconnected from just the reality of what I'm doing every moment because I'm rushing. I'm always rushing, right? So I'm not living, I'm existing when you're just rushing through and racing through at life every time, all the time. That was the first thing. And just the tears streamed and I just sat there. And then the second thing that was the huge catalyst was that same year that I took action and started my own small business. I didn't know where it was going to go. My father passed away. I started my business in June, but I wasn't really taking it super serious. And then in November, on Thanksgiving Day of 2009, my father passed away. He was only 59. That was the first phone call I got that morning to say that he had passed of a massive heart attack in his sleep. And I just remember that experience and realizing, man, he had stuff he wanted to do. He had a to-do list. I know he wasn't done at 59. Like you just get started, as Dr. Fraser oftentimes says. And it was a wake-up call for me. Like, if you're really going to live life, Cheryl, you better live it now because your tomorrow's not promised. So those were really the two catalysts that kind of, pushed me to step out and play bigger.
Yeah. Right. I'm writing this down because I'm glad you're getting ready to go to, but we're going to come back to that because I want to ask you something about handling that, because a lot of people who are viewing this, that is their life, right? It's constant rush. It's constant, almost on automatic pilot, right? You're not even paying attention. You're just doing the routine. Right. So I want to talk to you about breaking those routines, or how do you get out of that? So I'm going to make a note and we're going to come back to that because I think that will be a great tool for a lot of us to kind of look at. So now let's fast forward back to this
All right.
PNC piece.
So now we're at PNC, and that was the scariest thing I had ever done. First of all, honestly, I wasn't really officially a speaker yet.
Right.
I had an interest in, because I had done my first speaking engagement, which was in September 18th, 2010 at Morgan State University. And when I came to the Power Networking Conference, it was only 6 months later. So
Right.
it was June, I believe it was, of 2011 in Atlanta, Georgia.
Right.
And that daggone Peggy Morris, fooling with Peggy Morris, Peggy saw more greatness in me than I saw in myself at that time. And that's why your community and who's in your front row and who's in your circle and who's speaking into you, it matters, because that can be the difference between you playing small and safe where you're at and you taking a risk, such as getting on stage in front of hundreds of people to pitch an elevator pitch that I ended up winning. That became the confirmation for me to say, you actually, there's something here. So I was nervous. I was a wreck. First of all, I was in awe at what I saw at the Power Networking Conference, because I'd never been in that type of environment before. I grew up in poverty. I mean, beneath the poverty line in an inner city housing project in Baltimore, Maryland. So no, I didn't grow up around millionaires and billionaires, especially people that look like me. So first of all, I was just in awe to be in that space and have access to people that I'd watched on videos and watched on screen, and Lisa Nichols and folks like that. But then to get in that space and feel the energy from all of those people, who all of them are striving to be a better version of themselves. All of them are striving to create legacy. All of them are striving to create wealth, was like, whoa, it just knocked me off my feet. And then Peggy Morris challenged me and said, Cheryl, get up here. You need to be a part of this elevator pitch competition. And I was like, no, I'm not ready. I'm not. And again, discounting what was already there, innately there. But I said yes. And I think that is one of my superpowers, is the willingness to say yes, even when it scares me. The willingness to say yes and execute it, even when I don't know how it's going to happen. Or I everything in my body realistically is saying, you're not the one. Right. I say yes anyway. And I'll never forget, because it was only about 10 of us who were going to be doing the elevator pitch competition, 10 or 11 or something like that. Right. And I'll never forget the first girl who went up, and she knocked it out of the park. She had been trained by the person who won the year before. Wow. So as soon as she got up there and she got like almost all 10s across the board, I was like, why am I even here? This is what's going on in my mind as I'm sitting in the chair waiting for my turn to be called. Again, fear shows up. It doesn't matter where you're at, what you're doing. Fear is showing up like, Cheryl, you're not as good as her. What? Don't go up there and make a fool of yourself. You don't know all your stats. You don't know all the data. You don't have research like she had research. And in that moment, I wanted to just get up out of the chair and run. But again, it was, you got to give yourself permission to do things that scare you in order for you to even discover what you're capable of. And so I just got up, and my superpower is saying yes. And I'd say my secondary superpower is my passion and my energy. Ooh, I don't know if you can beat me on that. My passion and my energy, I'm fired up about who I have the potential to be. So I have to stand on the power of what my superpowers are. So I said, don't try to get up here and be her. You're not her. You don't know stats and data. That ain't your thing. Your thing is your passion and being able to infect other people with that passion and that energy. And that's what I did. And guess what? It was enough.
Yeah, and this is so good. This is real juicy. This part right here, what you just said, and because I want to kind of unpack this a little bit more, because working with people within the Masters of Business, the core thing that I start with my clients or anybody that I encounter now is really looking at your own unique talent, skills, gifts, and abilities, and then building around that. You have no competition when you're building off of what your inherent gifts, talents, and abilities are. You just have to develop them, right? And make sure that they're the best that they can be, but you're unique. There's no two snowflakes alike, no two raindrops alike, right? And there's no two human beings alike. And so what you're speaking to is that somehow you knew what your inherent talent, skills, and gifts and abilities were even before you really started to develop them, but you leaned into them. And that was really the catalyst for what we see today as this business, but it was started with those two superpowers that you just mentioned. So can you unpack that a little bit more? When you're encountering people, how often do you find that same resistance where they're talking themselves out of opportunities and things like that because they haven't realized that they have these unique talent, skills, and gifts? How do you deal with that with a lot of your clients and students?
Yeah. Well, to answer the question, I find that with 99.999% of the people that I come in contact with, that they have that same apprehension about moving forward, about getting started or taking a risk or launching the thing or coming to the front of the room, because really internally they've already counted themselves out because they've looked at the landscape around them and compared themselves to everybody else's gift instead of laser focusing in and leaning in to their own gift. And so that takes a special kind of commitment, if you will, to say, I'm going to put blinders on and I'm just going to laser focus on what I bring to the table. What is that thing that people love about me? What gets people excited when I walk in the room? What magnetizes people to me? And it might not be that you're an amazing person who knows stats and statistics and data and figures and facts, right? That's somebody else's gig. That's and maybe for you, it is your energy or your passion or the way you make other people feel or that big energy that you bring into the room and you have a smile and you lift the whole room up. Whatever the thing is, you must laser focus on your own specialty. What is my special sauce? And understand that not everybody will value that special sauce. I put a post on Instagram maybe a week or so ago. And I said, the thing about it is everybody don't like barbecue sauce, but some people love it. My son, he got to have barbecue sauce with everything he eats. Some people don't like soy sauce, but some people got to have it with their Chinese food. Some people don't like marinara sauce, but some people, you better put some marinara sauce on that table. What's the point? The point is you are somebody's special sauce, but not everybody's. Not everybody's going to love what you're doing, love your energy. And that's okay because you don't have the capacity to serve everybody. So I focus on that. Even if I wanted to serve everyone in the world, I don't have the capacity. So then why would I try to target everyone in the world? I got to lean into the core segment of the population who will hear my voice based on my experiences, based on my story, based on the way I deliver it, the way I say what I say, how I move in the marketplace. That's going to be a unique audience. And so I focus on that instead of trying to focus on everyone. And I don't compare, I don't compete, and I don't covet anybody else's blessings. Yeah.
And that's key. I'm so glad you said that. I think I posted something not too long ago about how this society is so obsessed with comparisons. And really that is the death knell of being unique. When you start comparing and looking to the left and looking to the right and trying to size up, quote unquote competition, you're already missing the boat, because even when you start working on weaknesses that you think that are going to become strengths to compete with somebody else, you really can't compete, because all it is for you is a strong weakness. But for them, it's their strength, right? It's their gift. So anybody that you're competing with in their gift, you're going to lose or you're going to be at a disadvantage. So it's best to focus on your unique gift because that's your strength. So I'm so glad that you did it. And let's move. I mean, I could sit here and just talk to you all day about that. That's beautiful. But this competition, you won the competition. The business had nothing to do with speaking. If I remember correctly, it was the pitch that you put up was for a business. I can't even remember what business.
I think it was still the t-shirt business.
Yeah, it was a t-shirt. Yeah, so it had nothing to do with speaking, anything that you're doing now. So you won the competition. Then let's fast forward a little bit, a year later, 2 years later, what happened that now, that you've been doing this speaking, but now you're ready to kind of go into this arena full throttle?
Yeah, I was still broke, busted, and disgusted. I had not learned two things. I had not learned how to monetize my gift, which was connected to the fact that I still didn't value my gift. So even though I knew in my heart that that's what I wanted to do, like there was, there's a pulling on you, like a tugging, you're like, that's what you're supposed to be doing. And I would go to conferences still, I always consistently invested in myself, and I would go to conferences and I would literally sit in the audience and I'd have tears streaming down my face watching someone else who was shining brightly on stage, knowing that that was my calling. Wow. Knowing that I was supposed to be on stage. I knew it. I didn't have the confidence I needed. I didn't have the belief I needed. And I certainly didn't have the money, because the money is going to stem from the confidence and the belief. So I had to do a lot of work on me, a lot of mindset shift, a lot of affirmations, so that I could really change what was between here and what I was thinking and feeling about myself. I had to get around more people who spoke life into me and reminded me of my greatness. But then the biggest job was me doing it for me, my own internal work. So I started reading books about mindset mastery. I started creating affirmations in the I am, I am enough, and I am worthy, I am capable. And I started saying these every single day, because that's how the subconscious mind works. The more you tell it something, the more it's going to believe it. So I needed to shift my beliefs, which meant I had to shift what I was putting in. And I love that Les Brown says that. He says, it's not what you put in is what you get out. It's, or as people say, garbage in, garbage out. That's what his quote is. Garbage. It's not garbage in, garbage out. It's garbage in, garbage stays in.
Right.
And I was just feeding on garbage in.
Right.
That's all I had at the time. I
Right.
didn't have positive in. So I was replacing the garbage, cleaning that garbage up and putting something else in place of that, so that I could have the belief, so that I could show up on more stages, but not only show up powerfully in position, so that I could move forward and elevate. And then that would ultimately get me to a place of monetization.
Yeah, this is beautiful, and I want to highlight some things, because here it is. We're talking about your journey, right? And you're talking about the behaviors and the habits that you had to start developing, which all of us have to start developing. And I'm listening to you, and I'm also reflecting on when I started to meet and be influenced by people that we admire. So I know recently matter of fact, a day or two ago, you just did this, you mentioned Les Brown's name, but then you just held a conference with Les Brown, right? So I definitely want to unpack that, but I want you to kind of share with us your vantage point of watching the Lisa Nichols, watching the Les Browns, and knowing that that's a desire of yours. And now you're working on yourself, but now, what is that next step that you took that thrust you to now wanting to engage with these individuals? Because now you've worked with Lisa, right? And Les Brown. I know it's the same with me, that I've ended up working with these individuals and Dr. Frazier, but there was something that said, you know what, I gotta engage a little bit more. What was that, and how did that take place with you?
Yeah, so I always have my list of Power 10. Who are the 10 powerful people who are in my industry doing exactly what I want to do, but they're doing it times 10? I always have that list. And at the top of that list was always Lisa Nichols, Les Brown. I didn't even know Dr. Frazier before a Power Networking Conference. So, I was talking about the gurus, Tony Robbins. I think at the time, I don't even know if I knew Eric Thomas at the time, but my top three were Lisa, Les, and Tony Robbins. And so the question started to become, how do I even get anywhere in their circle? Like, I didn't even know where to start. And really the start was, number one, following their work, and any and every opportunity that I get to be in their presence, be in their presence. So ironically, Power Networking Conference was the first time I was in Lisa Nichols' presence. And she opened up her room, her hotel room, after she spoke, and she invited anybody who wanted to come up, they could come upstairs. And she just sat around and answered questions. And I remember I was so broke, Brother Bedford, at that time, when I went to the Power Networking Conference. I'd spent all of my last little bit of coins on the flight to get there and the ticket. And I remember praying and like, God, please let them feed us. Right. Like, this is serious. I was like, please let them feed us, because I don't even have money to eat at this conference. So I go to the conference, thank God, bless Dr. Frazier, and he fed us.
Yeah, fed us well too.
Right. I'm up in Lisa Nichols' room, and she's going around asking, anybody have a question? Anybody have a question? And I ask a question about something related to speaking or something. And she gives me a response, and she says, I recommend that you get my XYZ CD set. That's going to serve you well. You need to go and listen to that. And she said, it's $97. Can you afford it? Can you purchase it? I didn't have no money.
Right.
When I tell you I had to release ego in that moment, because I was in front of 60 people in the room.
Right.
And I said, no, I can't. She pulled it out, she autographed it, and she gave it to me. That moment was such a profound moment.
It was. I can feel it right now.
It literally brings me to tears that moment was supposed to happen, right? So that was my first experience being in Lisa's presence. And I knew I was like, this is not the last time I'll be in her presence.
Right.
Okay, then I started looking for, okay, where is she going to be speaking at? Is she going to be in my neighborhood in the DC region? Is she going to be in Atlanta? I can fly to Atlanta. And anywhere where she was going to be speaking, I tried to be in that room. And eventually, it took me 7 years to finally get to a place where I could actually invest in hiring her.
Mm-hmm.
That was the true tipping point.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I hired her for individual coaching, VIP, where I flew out to Calabasas, California. I sat in a room with Lisa and me, just the two of us, for an 8-hour day, just being poured into.
Mm-hmm.
Those things were, not only was I investing in the education, I was investing in access that would lead to a relationship.
Right.
So I can't overemphasize the importance of investing. And sometimes people think they're just investing in the content. No, you're investing in something bigger than that. Because I know once I get in your space, oh, you're going to know who I am.
Right.
I'm gonna make sure you know who I am, Brother Bedford. Because this is what God has given me, this voice. And you think I'm not gonna use it?
Right.
Then here's another piece. I gotta pull this in. It's so important. Sometimes people will say, don't tell people your dreams and keep it to yourself. No, speak it out loud as though it is already to be. Like, talk about it, say it. I had been saying for such a long time that I was going to be an international speaker. In fact, I used to go to networking events here locally, Brother Bedford, and I would introduce myself and say, I'm Cheryl Wood. I wasn't Dr. Cheryl Wood yet. I'm Cheryl Wood, international speaker, international motivational speaker. I had never left Baltimore yet.
Right.
And I was already claiming I was going to be international.
Right.
But because I kept speaking that same thing and there was consistency in what I was saying, and I shared with people what my big dream was, and I talked about it, there was a sister who hosted a conference here in the DC area at the Gaylord Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
She knew that I wanted to be closer to Lisa. So what did she do? Because she knew my dream, because she knew I had been working so hard for it, she hosted an event, a conference. And guess who she put on the main ticket as the 2 keynote speakers? Lisa Nichols and Cheryl Wood.
Awesome.
So I'm on a ticket and a flyer that's being promoted globally, that I'm speaking on the same stage as a keynoter with Lisa Nichols, the person I aspire to follow in her footsteps.
Right.
So then what happens? Lisa comes, she's at the event, I'm at the event, and the person set me up for success. She allowed me to introduce Lisa. And of course, when I introduced her, what did I do? I got to leverage this opportunity. I shared with her my PNC experience. I said, you probably don't remember me, but let me share with you what you did for me that day. And guess what I had in my hand on that moment? I had that $97 CD set that she had given to me, an autograph. And I shared with her how much that meant to me. And then, so she was the keynoter on that day. The next day, I was the keynote speaker. Brother Bedford, I didn't know she was going to come in the room. She had already done her thing. She had already taken all the money out the room. You know how Lisa does. She had already taken all the money out the room on Saturday. And now here I am keynoting on Sunday. I thought she was gone. We thought she had left. She was still in the hotel. She came down to the room, the conference room, and sat and listened to my entire speech. Now you talk about pressure.
Right.
I was like, oh my God. Is she going to stay? She's going to stay. She's going to stay. Cheryl, breathe. Just be you.
Right.
And I was just authentically me. And I dropped the mic, Brother Bedford. Why? Because this is what I was born to do. So I can't not show up now. And that was the beginning of, she was able to see what I can do and see that I'm serious about this thing. I'm not at the top yet, but I'm ready to get there, and I'm teachable and I'm coachable, and I got some good stuff to work with already because I've already started on this journey. So It was a culmination of those things that then put me into coaching with her individually, and it led to one thing to the next. And that started my relationship. And then really quickly with Les and some of the other folks I've connected with, it's typically started through investing.
Right.
I don't just come in and say, hey, I'm a great speaker. Could you collaborate with me? Can you partner with me? Come on. Nobody's giving you success. Success ain't never free. Nobody. And I learned that from Dr. Fraser. First time I met him, he said, success nobody ain't ever giving it to you for free. So stop expecting it. Right. And so I invest in myself. And as I invest, I already know that there's going to be a connection there because I look for people that I believe I have a synergy with. I look at their work, I pay attention to what they do, I look at how they serve, and I'm like, that's who I'm supposed to be connected to. And of course I pray over it so that there's discernment. And then I put my money where my mouth is. And that always leads to something more than just a coach mentee mentor relationship. It always leads to some type of collaborative relationship later.
Yeah, this is beautiful. And I just want to highlight a couple of things that you said. In your word choice is so perfect. It's pitch perfect when you, because you said it on multiple occasions, you invested in yourself. Most people, if you listen, if your language, for those who are watching the video, if your language is, I'm buying coaching, right? When you're thinking like a consumer, there is no return on that, right? But if you're investing, there is a return, right? So Dr. Wood had already known that she was investing in herself, expecting a return, and not necessarily a monetary return. It was a return of relationship, and not just a surface level relationship. These are deep, long-lasting, fulfilling relationships that have grown probably beyond your wildest dreams at this moment. And so I can relate, but I think that's such an important part to kind of highlight for those of you who are watching. When someone like Dr. Wood or Les Brown or anybody that you admire who's in this space, and they have something of value and they offer it to you as a way for you to invest and connect at a deeper level, if you're going in with the consumer mind, you're going to destroy the opportunity. It just won't make sense to you. But if you're thinking like a producer, if you're thinking like a creator, you'll see that this is just the seed of a bigger opportunity. So that's one thing that I want to highlight that you said. And the beautiful part, did you all hear that she said it was 7 years later? I really want you to, I don't want that just to drop on the floor and you don't pick that one up. Most of us can't run the marathon 7 years. If we don't get the relationship in year 1 or year 2 or year 3, we just give up. But it was 7 years later before she cemented this relationship with Lisa Nichols. Now, that's not to say that Dr. Wood wasn't doing anything for 7 years. She was building up to this point. So I just want you to kind of just speak to that real quick, Dr. Wood, about what were you doing during that 7-year period that allowed you to develop the confidence, become cash flow confident, whatever you needed to be to go ahead and make that investment 7 years later?
I was still investing, but I was just investing at a level that my pockets could afford at that time, right? Like sometimes you want to invest with someone, you want to work with someone, and maybe you're not in a position to do that yet. That doesn't mean you give up that dream. Right. I was like, oh, I'm coming for Lisa. I'm going to get to you. It might not be right now, but I'm coming for you. My money funny right now, but it ain't always going to be funny. Right. And so the question I started asking myself is, what do I need right now to shift things? I knew I needed to shift my mindset. I knew the more I got on stages, I would become more confident, right? Because it's like your courage to say yes breeds more confidence. The more you do it and you're celebrated for the thing that you're doing, it breeds more confidence. The more you face the fear and you do it anyway, it breeds more confidence. And that confidence shows up in not only the way that you speak and what you share on the stage, but it also shows up in your willingness to then say, all right, so I'm going to take all this greatness that I've been and this confidence I've been building, but now I've got to convert it into monetization, right? Because I can't keep telling my husband that I came home broke again. So my husband became one of my accountability partners because it is unfair. And I'll never forget, a coach said this to me. It is unfair that you leave your house and you leave your family and you go serve the world and you bring nothing back to your family. That is unfair to your family. So I started working on, those pieces. I hired a sales coach who knew how to sell because I didn't sell well. It was just, when I tell you that was the thorn in my side, because I had witnessed some slimy salespeople in the industry and I hated the way they showed up. And so I didn't want to do it that way. So because I didn't know how to do it the opposite of that, other than what I had seen modeled, I didn't do it at all. So I would go to these events and I would drop the mic and get a standing ovation and still go home broke. And I'm like, I'm not going to stay in business doing it this way. So I think number one is an acknowledgement of what you're not doing well. Like just call it out for what it is and then seek the help that you need. So then I went and I hired a sales coach. And I did training with her and she taught me some strategies. But then the biggest part of it wasn't even that I went and got the sales coaching and automatically became a master seller. It was, every time I took the stage, I would try again. And sometimes I would fail miserably. I remember going to these conferences and I would do the sales pitch like what she told me, and it still didn't work.
Right.
But I didn't give up. So I would go to the next event and I would try it again. And oh my God, 2 people signed up. What? Now my confidence is boosted because it actually worked. And then I'd go to the next event, and instead of 2 people, now 10 people signed up. Okay, because I'm getting more comfortable. I'm getting more confident. I'm being more courageous. I'm realizing that I have the right. I'm practicing.
Right, you're practicing.
Yeah. And I'm also realizing that I have permission to be highly compensated for how well I am serving. Like, I don't have to choose serve or sell. I get to do both. And one of the things the sales coach taught me, she said 2 things that she taught me that was so profound and stuck with me forever. Number 1, money always replenishes itself. And when she said that, it was just like, okay, it made me more aware of investing because I always expect a return. Right. And then there was another a profound statement that she used, and she would say, I'm trying to pinpoint it exactly. And it's escaping me. But anyway, she really poured into me in terms of selling. Oh, she said selling, here it is. She said selling is a higher level of serving. Because if you sell, once you sell to someone, you get to hold their hand and usher them into what you just promised them they could have from the stage. I never forgot those 2 things. And so I just put it into practice every time. And sometimes I'd fail miserably, but I never gave myself permission to give up. So here's the beautiful thing. So by the time I got to Lisa, 7 years later, guess what happened? I was a different person.
Right.
So now the Cheryl that I was 7 years previous wouldn't have been ready to be in the presence of Lisa. That's just honest. I wasn't ready for the questions that she asked, the tough questions. I wasn't ready to look at my P&L. I wasn't ready. 7 years later, I felt like I'm ready. And now I've built my own brand, and I already come with all of these pieces that we don't have to try to work to get those pieces going. No, this is it's already solidified. I already have an army of people following me because for 7 years I've been doing the work. I've been coming to stage and I'm speaking and I'm selling. Okay. Cause I've done the work. So now all she had to do is, okay, tweak it. Let's tweak this. Let's change this, do this. Let's shift this so that now we take you to the next level.
This is beautiful. For those who didn't get that P&L, that's profit and loss statement. We'll make sure we cover. So you need to learn all of these things. For those of us who say we're going to get into entrepreneurship, one of the best ways to expedite your growth is to begin to learn the language of business, right? Like Cheryl said, she didn't know. She didn't have a P&L at first. She didn't know what profit and loss was and sales, back of the room sales. But these are the terms, the jargon that you'd be surprised on how fast you grow when you begin to use the appropriate words that are, maybe they need to be specific to your industry, but those things those are just business basics, right? P&L, that's profit and loss for those of you who didn't get that. This is so rich. Now I want to get into, because now we're getting into the business thing. But before we get into the business thing, I do want to go back to that question I said I wanted to ask you before we kind of escalate now and start talking about your business model and money and just the things that you've created. I do want to take you back to that earlier point that we made about rushing through life. And now you know what you know now, right? So some people would say, well, what advice would you give your 21-year-old self, Cheryl, now that you've done these things? So I won't ask you to give advice to your 21-year-old self, but that brother or that sister who's in their startup phase where they're actually going through what you were going through, the rushing every day, the automatic pilot, just being probably oblivious to your surroundings. As you mentioned, you backed into the car. It was probably there all night, right? All morning, probably there every day. But then the routine, something changed in the routine where you just put it in reverse and backed into it. So what advice would you give to someone who's currently in that space and now they need to kind of break out of that?
I'm going to say 2 things. Number 1, give yourself permission to be curious enough to at least explore what the possibilities could be outside of existing. Yeah. Like, you've got to have a spirit of curiosity, and you have to have a spirit of, you cannot have a spirit of complacency. Yeah. Let's say it like that. So really eliminating a spirit of complacency where I'm here, I'm in this situation and I'm just stuck here. No, No, you're never stuck anywhere unless you choose to stay stuck there. So give yourself permission to be curious about what else is possible. And then I'd say behind that is give yourself permission to just get started somewhere. Like you can make something great, but you got to get started to make it great. You can shift and change and make things better and pivot, but you got to have something to shift and change and pivot. So you've got to start something. So again, if you look at my journey, I didn't just wake up and decide I wanted to be a speaker. I was doing my t-shirt business for 1.5 years before I ever even got exposed to speaking. I only got exposed to speaking because I had started the t-shirt business. Right. So it was because I was in a forward movement and motion towards something different. And I didn't have a perfect explanation of what different was. I didn't have a blueprint of where I was going and how I was going to get there. I just had a determination and a commitment in my spirit that I will not exist through this whole life. Absolutely not. I deserve more. And I know for a fact that I've been created for more. It's my job to get out and find it. So my job in getting out and find it meant I had to start with something. And here's why I chose the t-shirt business, because I want you guys to understand when I say get started with something. I saw entrepreneurship as my savior in my mind. Before I even became an entrepreneur, meaning I saw entrepreneurship as the thing that was going to get me out of the rut that I was in, the rat race. So I saw entrepreneurship as the complete opposite. I'm like, okay, entrepreneurship is going to give me freedom. I'll be able to dictate how much money I make, when I come and go. Like that's what I saw as entrepreneurship. So I already knew that was going to be the angle, the direction I was going to take. The question then became, well, what business do you start? My second thing was in deciding that was I don't want to chase money. Because if I chase money, eventually I'm going to run out of steam. It has got to be deeper than just money. Right. Money comes, money goes. You make money, you lose money. You make money, you spend money. I don't want to chase money. I don't want to just pick something randomly. It's like eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let me do that. I don't want to do that. So then it became a deeper conversation of, well, Cheryl, what are you going to pursue as an entrepreneur? All right, well, what do you love? That was the question I started asking myself. What do you love? What do you talk about all the time? What are you passionate about? And at the time, I was very passionate about being a mother. Because people didn't know this, but for all of my adult life, I had these medical complications that caused infertility. So I'd been told by numerous doctors I would never have kids. God had a different plan and blessed me with these 3 amazing, healthy kids, but now I can't even spend the time I want to with them. So motherhood was the passion that was beaming in my spirit at that time. So I created a t-shirt business focused on being a mom. The company was called Moms Are the Best. Why? Because we are. And I had all these lines of these different t-shirts with different slogans that celebrated mothers and everything that we give to the world and how we sacrifice for our kids and everything we give to our communities. And I would go out on weekends. Let me add this in. I did not quit my job.
Please add that in, please. I get asked that so many times. People say, I'm ready. Should I quit my job? No. Because
number one, because I made a commitment with my husband that I was going to be a team player and contribute to the finances of my household. So I couldn't just throw that to the wind. Number two, I got 3 kids who like to eat 3 times a day. So guess what? I had to keep my full-time job, and that job became my investor in my later things that I would do, my coaching and going to conferences.
Your job funded
my freedom. Yeah. So, I forgot where I was. So literally I'm taking those pieces and I'm like, okay, I want freedom. I want to get away from the job. I see entrepreneurship as the thing. I kept my full-time job. And on the weekends, that's when I would go out and I would sell the t-shirts. It was because of the t-shirt business that someone at Morgan State University heard about it. I don't know how. Like, that's the beautiful thing about showing up and being in motion. It's like things will start to divinely be orchestrated behind the scenes and you don't even know it's being orchestrated because you're in movement. So your job is just to show up and stay in movement, right? Everything else will be divinely orchestrated around your movement. And I didn't know that somebody at Morgan would hear about the t-shirt business through whatever conversation or however they heard about it. And they called me on the phone and they said, we heard about your t-shirt business. We love what you're doing as a mommypreneur. Would you come to our annual women's conference and would you speak and teach other moms in the Baltimore community how to start their own businesses? I burst out laughing. I said, clearly you ain't looking for me. You dialed the wrong number. This is not the Cheryl Wood. No, check the spelling, because I didn't see myself as a speaker or anybody that they should be reaching out to. But I gave myself permission to say yes, Because again, when you're in motion, things are being divinely orchestrated behind the scenes that you can't see, touch, feel yet, but they're happening. And then the opportunity will present itself. And that's when you've got to get out of your own way and stop worrying about not being qualified, right? And acknowledge that, no, this opportunity, it was divinely created for me. So let me go ahead and say yes and see what's on the other side of this opportunity. Well, thank God I did that, because that was the very first speaking engagement that let me know this is what I was born to do.
This is so beautiful. You said the word curiosity, one of my favorite words. I think in schooling or in this education system, as a matter of fact, I think it was a nursery rhyme about somebody, curiosity. Yeah, curiosity
Curious
killed
doors,
the cat.
right? Or something like that.
Yeah, curiosity killed the cat, right? So this society stifles curiosity. It stops you from being inquisitive and asking questions. So that's one of my favorite words, that and ambition. What you display, your ambition allowed you to just take motion. You wanted more. Some people think being ambitious, there's a negative connotation to that. He or she too ambitious, or he too ambitious. Well, what else should I be? Why should I not be ambitious to want more, a bigger, better, brighter future? And the last point, Dr. Frazier told me, though, he's one of the first lessons when I had a chance to talk to him. He said, never chase money, chase excellence, because money always has a way of finding excellence. So if you chase excellence and you become excellent, money will find you. So so I live by that same principle. Dr. Wood, this is getting real good. Now I want to shift gears again, if you don't mind. Now you've gone through this journey, right? This is a long journey now. So I'm glad thank you again for taking the time to be transparent, to share the journey with the audience, because I think it's so incredibly important when they see someone of your caliber, to just think, it happened overnight, or I ain't Cheryl Wood, and, but again, and I'm so happy that you gave the full picture of what your life was like prior to, not even speaking, just prior to the t-shirt business, just even your personal struggles with infertility. And these are the things that derail so many people, but you've overcome all of those things. So again, thank you so much for being transparent and heart-centered and sharing those things. But now you've grown into this icon. So you're learning these lessons along the way. And now you're learning how to sell. And so let's conquer that one first. So now you're learning about the business of speaking, and now how to monetize that. But now you started packaging services and coaching programs. How did that happen? And what are your coaching programs?
Well, I laugh because when I first started, my stuff was a hot mess. But it was a hot mess in terms of the perfect packaging, right. But I always gave juicy content. So I always give people what I have based on what I know at this point. I can't teach you something that I don't know yet. So I've always played in that space of power, that I'm going to give you the best of what I have at this moment. This is everything I've learned. This is what I know, and I'm going to give that to you. But the packaging wasn't always perfect. I didn't know who to go to package the thing. I didn't know how to get the thing up online. But I did it the best way I could. So I remember when I first started selling things, there would be these other speakers who were so much more, they were further advanced than me, and they would come to the conferences and speak, and they would have these beautiful order forms, Brother Bedford. And I always wanted to say, how y'all get those order forms? You just don't know what you don't know. So you know what I would do? I would create my own order forms. I would go to my computer. I would create a Word doc. Remember, I'm a secretary. I was a secretary, and I would create a Word document, and I would put some colors in it and put little check boxes. Do you want this package or this package? And guess what? I started selling. I started selling based on what I had access to and what I knew in that moment, until I learned something different, until I coached with the people who could teach me how to package it right. So I just didn't let anything stand in my way of selling. And then I would do these classes, right? And I didn't know how to perfectly facilitate or host a class. So I didn't have this beautifully designed PowerPoint deck. We call it a deck now, once you get to be a real speaker, right? And before it's a deck, girl, it's just some PowerPoint slides.
Right? That's right.
But the point is, I just started with what I had. I sold what I knew how to sell and what I spoke well on. Like, I can turn the camera on and talk all day. I can teach you what I know. And then I made sure I stayed in a space of excellence and improved as I improved.
Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest piece of it. And then in terms of packaging it, I would look at what other people were, how are they packaging their stuff? I believe being a student is education and observation.
Right.
So I would observe what other people who were already doing what I wanted to do, how are they selling their stuff? Let me look at their order form, right? Not that I want to copy what they have, because I'm going to add my own special sauce to it, but let me see how they laid this out. Oh, okay. So for about this type of investment, okay, so they're giving them 2 master classes and they're giving them this and they're giving them a copy of their book. Okay, you know what? Let me go back and apply that to my own business. And what can I sell that I can put in a package similar to this? So I always have been someone who's going to observe what the gurus are doing. Why? Because success leaves clues. Why am I recreating the horse, and everything else, the cow, everything? I'm trying to recreate it. No, I just put my special sauce on it. And that is what got me started in terms of being able to actually monetize the thing called speaking.
This is awesome. And here's the thing, it's very formulaic. Once you know the formula, right? Sometimes when if you have a business and you're trying to sell a product or a service and you're missing this one step, I've coached people, I've consulted with people who have this awesome presentation and all of these things, bells and whistles, and here's how we're going to deliver it and all this. And then I'm going through that business. I'm like, where's the order form? How do they buy, right? So you're doing everything else and it's just this one element. Then they're looking at me and they're stunned, like, I hadn't even thought about that. Or what's your call to action, right? So it's once you learn these things, it's very formulaic, and then you can kind of begin to, add your special sauce to it as you move along, but it's very formulaic. And so you, being a great student, observing the formulas that everyone else was doing, even when you talked about bonuses and stacking. I have clients who come to me, or people come to me, and I said, you don't even offer a bonus.
Right.
I said, your sales will probably go up 50% if you just added a bonus, or a guarantee. We don't even like to guarantee our work. I said, you probably would get 100% conversion rate if you just offered a guarantee, because you have to make your customers or clients feel comfortable with the purchase. And so you have a way of doing that. So you went from the packaging of the sales, and you still do that with your materials, your coaching programs and classes and courses, but then you started writing books, right? Yep. Can you so I'm trying to go through this natural progression for everyone, because Cheryl got a lot going on. I want to show you the courses, the speaking, the courses, the training. Can you explain to us, how did you start doing the books?
Yeah, so I knew I had to do at least my own solo book project, because people don't believe you're an expert until you got a book. That's just the reality. Like, once you have a book, they like, oh, if you wrote a book about it, you got to know what you're talking about. Right. So I call myself the queen of tip books. Like, all of my books are tips. Why? Because I know who my audience is. They are busy moms who, many of them still work full-time jobs while they're growing their side gig. So they don't have time to read a 600-page biography. But they can pick up a book, open it up, and read a powerful tip that gets their mind motivated for that day of what they're going to do and what they're going to press through in pursuing their dream, right? And that's where I come in. So first I wrote my first tip book, and that was like in 2011. And then I wrote another one. So I was starting to write these solo tip book projects. And then I realized, well, a part of my brand and my legacy is not just what I can do for Cheryl, but how do I usher other people into their next? And so I started hosting conferences, and those conferences led to writing book anthology projects. And then it led me to creating stages so that other people who said, I want to be a speaker, can have a platform to share their voice. So it's just kind of become full circle with, let me show you this one. This is the one I just did with Les. And this isn't even, this launches July 12th, but here's my advanced copy. And look on the back of that. 74 people, 74 entrepreneurs who are transparent in sharing their story and their message to inspire other people. That's 74 people who has my fingerprint on them.
That's right.
Right? Like, that's our job, is to use our gifts and put our fingerprint on other people so that they believe in greater and believe in more and push to do more. And so I look at that, and that for me is priceless. That outweighs the money, that outweighs the notoriety, that, like, knowing that your life is counting because you are ushering other people into their next. So this is one of my favorite things to do is these book projects. So I do these and sometimes I'll get 40 people, sometimes I'll get 70 people. But the point is I'm creating the platform so that more people can come to the front of the room and share their story. And the beautiful thing about an anthology is it takes some of the pressure away from entrepreneurs becoming authors. Because when you think about writing a book, that can be very intimidating. It's a tedious process. It doesn't happen overnight. Not if it's going to be a good book, right? We're not talking about these pamphlets people writing, but I digress. We're talking about a real book. That's work, and you've got to be committed to it, and it's going to be a process. But if you're writing a 500 to 2,000 word story or chapter in a book, and you get to add author to everything else that you've been doing. I have people who have come and done my book anthology projects and who've been in 5-6 projects. And I asked them, why do you keep coming back and writing in every project that I do? And finally, they'll say, I had this one lady who recently just said, because I was using that as my prep work to write my first book.
Right.
So it was getting her in the mind frame of writing, in the habit of setting aside the time and being in the space that you need to, that energizes you creatively so that she can produce her own solo project. So everything I do, again, it's a blessing to know that I get to use my voice, not just to speak on stages, that's great, but then to take it a step further to help usher other people into using their voices, whether it's verbally or whether it's in writing.
Yeah, that's a powerful lesson. First, that model, I mean, we don't have time to go into that business model that you have there with the anthology, but it's such a beautiful business model in and of itself. So and hold that up again. Can you hold that up again? I mean, how does that feel to see you and Les Brown on that cover? I mean, see, again, these are going from humble beginning. Remember, backing up into a husband's Jag to being on the cover with Les Brown. This is beautiful.
It is surreal. It is surreal. And sometimes, I just did my 3-day conference, You Are Enough, which was the conference connected to this book project this past weekend. And there were times when I just kind of you could see my eyes tearing up in the middle of me speaking. And I had to stop and explain it because I don't want people to think she just crying out the blue.
Right.
Well, it's not just out of the blue. It's for a level of gratitude about how far I've come in this journey. Right. Like Brother Bedford, I remember the hard times. I remember losing stuff. Sometimes you got to lose it all to gain it all. Right. I remember walking away from the full-time job so scared, oh my God, did I make the right decision? Did I just set my family up for failure? And all the stuff that's going on in your mind just to have the courage to take the risk and then to hope the risk pays off. And then to be in it for 5 years and not see it paying off. So you think it's not paying off. It's happening. You just can't touch it, feel it, hold it, see it tangibly yet. Right. But
it's not showing up in the bank account yet.
That's it. And so to be 5 years in and then 6 years in and then 7 years, I'm like, okay, God, maybe I made the wrong decision. Right. And then something happens and all the seeds you've been planting, all the work you've been doing, all the deposits you've been making, and you start to see, this sprout and this opportunity and that connection and this relationship. And you're like, oh, okay, wait, what? Wait, it wasn't just for nothing. Okay, stuff is starting to happen. And then you get your second win and you're like, oh, baby, we about to do this. I'm just getting started now. That's what it feels like even now. It feels like every seed I've planted has been worth it. It feels like every sacrifice that I've made has been worth it. Every distraction that I eliminated has been worth it. The entire journey has been worth it because this is where I'm supposed to be. And even though I knew it back then, there was still this little lingering question in the back of my mind. Is it really going to ever happen? And your job really is to answer that back. Of course it will. And when you answer it back, of course it's going to happen. There's no way you can plant the way you're planting. There's no way you can serve the way you're serving and never the harvest doesn't ever come in. There's no way. That's not even possible. Yeah. So this is the confirmation that you got to keep planting the seeds and plant so many that you lose count and the harvest will eventually come in. This is a part of my harvest coming in. So it's surreal and I'm just honored. And I'll stop before I get emotional.
No, when does that launch on? You said July
2 weeks, 12th. July 12th. Yep.
So if you're watching this before July 12th, be on the lookout for it. If you're watching it afterwards, we'll have a link and everything for you to make sure that you partake of that's a beautiful cover too. That's a beautiful looking book, to beautiful packaging. Another lesson that you just shared.
Brother Bedford, that's because I can afford packaging now.
That's right. That's right. We talked about that, going through those stages of packaging.
It didn't look like that all the way. It didn't always look like this.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And you share so many lessons, man. And I just want to make sure that, you know, we're reflecting on those things, man. One of the lessons, you heard us talk earlier about not comparing yourself. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways to stay on the journey is to make sure that you're not comparing. If you're comparing yourself to somebody else's success, somebody else's bank account, how their career looks on the outside, that's when you really, that pressure that you're putting on yourself, right? Because, you know, God ain't putting that pressure on you, putting that pressure on yourself, worrying about how you look to other people, how you show up to other people. And you're the example of sticking to the process regardless, you know, not thinking about what someone else is viewing. You know, the internal struggles that you're going through. Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, I remember when he told me, when he was writing, co-writing the book with Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. And he said, Brother Beverly, it was 7 years of hell and high water, right? Oh. And to endure that, most people don't see that 7 years, in your case, those 5 years. All of us have the stories of the bankruptcies, the foreclosures, and all of those things, negative withdrawals on the account. So it's not something that's foreign to entrepreneurs, but it is the thing that it's the exercise. Like you mentioned, the young lady who keeps coming back, that muscle that she was exercising by committing to just one chapter at a time is preparing her. All of these things that we go through as entrepreneurs, these are the exercises that's giving us the strength and the muscle for, you know, you to be able to handle what you're doing right now, because without everything else, you couldn't handle those 70. How many people in that book? 75?
75 people, yeah.
Yes, that's a massive project. 75 people. That's one part of it. The other part, the weight of working with a legend such as Les Brown. That's a whole, we could talk about that all day. I have that stress myself when I'm working with George and everybody else. Yes. That's a whole nother different type of stress, because you don't want to let them down. You don't want to mess up the projects. So you got to get to a certain level. And you've done that, Cheryl, Dr. Wood. You've done that so great. Now you touched on the conference. I'm going to look at the clock. I don't want to take up your whole afternoon, even though I could just talk to you all day.
Likewise. I love the conversation. I love it.
Thank you. You talked about the conference. So just so everyone, so get the t-shirt business, right? Then started speaking, right? And then learning how to speak, learning the speaking business, then getting on stages and learning how to speak, but still not enough, not a lot, but then learning how to monetize, not just the speaking on stages, but learning how to create products and services that she could sell from the back of the room. And then she talked about how taking that and parlaying that now into these anthology projects. And how many have you done now up to this date?
I'm 14. I'm working on number 15 project.
So these are 15 projects over a few years. Now these are all separate book projects that have become bestsellers that not only Dr. Wood has her name on, but all of the other participants. Beautiful business model to kind of look at. So make sure y'all get in touch with Dr. I don't know if you offer that service, but they need to, if worst case scenario, buy the book and just as she modeled other people, model Dr. Wood. Look at what she's doing and see if you can duplicate that. But she dropped in there how she started creating stages for people to speak on and the conferencing. And you launched something, and I was just so grateful myself to be a part of SpeakerCon 2019, and I received an award. And this is always right. This is not on a mantle or nothing. This is in my bedroom right there. So every day I wake up, I see this because it means so much coming from you and what you're attempting to accomplish. So let's talk about SpeakerCon. So you did all of these things, and now you've not only created these platforms with the books and coaching programs and things like that, but now you have your own conference where you're giving out awards, and you have legends coming to speak at the conference and participate. Talk more about SpeakerCon.
Oh my God, it is my baby, or as we call it in our industry, it's my annual signature event. There you go with some jargon, right? Right, Brother Bedford?
Signature event, right? Your signature program, signature event. Yep, that's the industry.
So it is my annual conference. This is year 3. And ironically, I did conferences before SpeakerCon. So I used to do conferences, early on, but it would be 25 people in the room. But that's okay. It was still a conference. It was my intimate conference. My intimate conference, right?
We don't despise small beginnings.
That's right. And it started to grow. And then I started doing this conference called Playtime is Over. And it was a women's business conference. And I did that conference for 4 years, and hundreds of women would come from all across the world to come to that conference. And it was beautiful. But then I am always curious. What's next? How should I? Because I always want to grow. There's a quote that says, the thing that's not growing is dying. I always want to be growing. And I always want to I want to niche down as much as possible for what is my core expertise that I'm going to serve the world with. Like, I need people to know this is who I am. This is what I do. This is my expertise. And I don't want to be a generalist. I want to be a specialist. I want to be a guru and a master, like the masters, right? Dr. Fraser and Les Brown and Lisa. And so they don't do that because they talk about everything. They don't do it because they try to do everything. They hone in on what their specialty is. So I got this download, like a divine download, like, you know what? There's a cookie con, there's a Comic Con, there's a t-shirt con. And I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, is there no speaker con? There is no speaker con. There's no speaker con. And then here was the crazy part. Even though I had grown so much, I sat on that idea for a whole year, almost a year and a half. You know why? Because I kept saying, you can't do speaker con. You don't even have enough time in the industry to say you're going to be the person to host SpeakerCon. That somebody like Lisa or Les or Tony Robbins or Eric, they could do it, but you can't. And I kept myself stuck for a long time. And finally, I just released it. I said, know what? No, I'm not going to sit on this idea anymore. I have a right to come to the front of the room and to say, this is the idea and the vision that's been given to me, and I'm going to execute it. If it was downloaded to me, it belongs to me.
That's right.
So that's when I decided in 2019, we did our first SpeakerCon, and it's specifically designed for new emerging and aspiring speakers, as well as entrepreneurs, coaches, authors, consultants who say, I'm ready to unleash the power of my voice. I have too much that I'm sitting on to ever be quiet. I have too much knowledge and information that I have access to ever be quiet. And that's a combination of my life experiences, my failures and my successes. It's a combination of the stuff that tried to break me that I broke through. It's a combination of the external knowledge that I've poured in. Like, I'm sitting on some good stuff. Why am I keeping it to myself? I impact more lives by sharing it. I create greater legacy by sharing it. So we're simply being in a space where we're coming together and we're connecting the dots for people who, you might be in the financial industry, you might bake pies, you might do makeup or hair, but you still should be teaching somebody what you know. That's how you create real legacy. So we do this every year, first week of November. The first year was amazing. That's where we got to celebrate Brother Bedford for his amazing work in the world that I've been following since I came into this industry and have always been inspired by him. And then we honored Dr. Fraser, Mickey Taylor, Gloria Mayfield Banks, Linda Clemens. Like, it was phenomenal. Of course, last year we got hit by the pandemic and we went virtual, and we still, I didn't expect a lot. I'm going to be very honest. I had low expectations for the virtual. We had more attendees for the virtual. We had more participation. We converted more people into their next from the virtual than we did in the live. So it doesn't matter what's happening in the world. You get to be in control of what's happening in your world, in your life, and in your business. So this year we come back again, November 4th through the 7th, and we're doing it virtually. It will be no cost. Or you can upgrade to a VIP, which gives you the replays and some other bonuses, but it's no cost. All you have to do is set aside the time to be there to learn. We have not opened up registration yet, but that will be opening soon. So if you want to connect with me on social media at Cheryl Empowers and just follow what I'm doing, or go over and become a part of my VIP community by going to CherylEmpowers.com and entering in your name and email, then you'll get the notifications as soon as it goes live. You'll be able to go ahead and get your ticket. We expect it will go live very soon in the next few days. But we have not announced our heavy hitters who are coming. The great part about this, what we decided, we didn't know that there were going to be vaccines and things like that. So we had already planned for virtual, so we're going to stick with virtual. But we are having a live element to the conference, which is going to be our networking kickoff and awards gala on Wednesday, November 3rd. And it's going to be in the DC metropolitan area. It is going to be fire. When I tell you who's coming to pour into us at this gala, you know, you can't have even a gala and not have a speaker. You know that, right? When you're a speaker, it got to be a speaker at everything you do. So we have an amazing speaker coming in. So again, we'll be announcing all of that in the next couple of days. So just stay plugged into our social media sites, get on our list so that you can be informed, so that you can be a part of this year's SpeakerCon. And our theme this year is Unleash Your Undeniable Impact.
Unleash your undeniable impact.
Yes.
And where can they go to sign up to get on the waiting list again, Cheryl?
Just go to CherylEmpowers.com. CherylEmpowers.com. There's going to be a little pop-up that pops up. Enter your name and email, and you'll go right into our VIP community list. And we'll be sending out reminders. Like as soon as the registration opens, we're going to be sending you a reminder. Hey, get registered. We're only 4 months out. Y'all know 4 months is going to go in the blink of an eye, right? We're going to blink and be in November. So
absolutely. We're already blinking and we're halfway through the year already.
Believe it. I can't believe we're in July. Tomorrow's July 1st. I can't believe it.
Yeah, this is interesting. Dr. Wood, Cheryl Wood, Dr. Cheryl Wood. I mean, this has been awesome. I want to make sure that everyone knows, you know, Cheryl, as you can see, that you have a lot of people charging for conferences, right? So the mere fact that it's free is something that you should just partake of, but I don't want you to look at it, oh, it's a free conference. The value, the speakers, the training, the teaching, the examples that you'll be able to access for free, you can't even put a price tag on it. And I just wanted to kind of highlight that because I want everyone who's listening to my voice, everyone, I'll be encouraging people to make sure you go. If you're trying to become a speaker, or if, as you mentioned, if you're just trying to learn how to share all of this that you're sitting on, your undeniable impact, things that you know can make a difference in the world, what we talked about earlier, your unique talent, skills, and gifts, your abilities, you need to get that out into the world and test it against the marketplace and get feedback and be around people. So this is phenomenal. So make sure you go over to sign up. So Cheryl, I just want to ask you before you go, just want to make sure that everyone knows, make sure you subscribe, like, if you love this interview, which I watched my interviews over and over again, and it has nothing to do with me. I'm taking notes, I'm learning from the experience that Dr. Wood is sharing. So I'll be viewing this over and over again, but if you know that there is a brother or a sister who needs to hear what Dr. Cheryl Wood shared with us today, you need to subscribe and make sure that you share this interview with as many people as possible to get so that they can be fed just like you and I were fed today. So with that said, Cheryl, I'd like to ask you your parting words. What would you like to share to those beginning, budding entrepreneurs, but even those seasoned ones? I found that a lot of us are seasoned and it's still not making the impact that we should, and we let pride and all of these things get in the way of seeking out a good coach like yourself or something like that. So we're prideful and want to stick in our own little silos and build this thing like a rugged individualist. What words would you share to that budding individual like yourself 12 years ago, and then that person who's in this space with us right now, but still is fearful about investing or taking the next step?
I'll say this to both of those groups. Your best is still in front of you. It's not behind you, it's in front of you. But you get to decide what that looks like. And a big part of that is going to be showing up, taking risks, getting started, doing it afraid, but also being connected to community, a community of like minds who are aiming to play full out in their own life, in their own journey, and they don't settle for less, so they wouldn't dare let you settle for less. It's about maintaining that spirit of curiosity about what else is possible for me. Who else's life can I impact? There's 7.7 billion people in the world. There's somebody waiting on you. I have a sign behind me on this side. Here it is. That literally somebody's waiting on what you're sitting on.
That's right.
So you have to give yourself permission to keep showing up. You don't get to show up one time and you're done, 2 times and you're done, 5 years and you're done. No, your best is in front of you and people are waiting on you. So even if you're seasoned, keep being curious about what else is possible. What else is there? Who else is waiting on me? Who else needs to hear what I have to say? And then show up so that you can provide in the marketplace what people are looking for. There's a quote by Tony Robbins, and I love the quote because it really is a demonstration of what's necessary. And I always say to clients, knowledge is power, but knowledge executed is your superpower. And in the words of Tony Robbins, a real decision is measured by the fact that you've taken a new action. And if there is no new action, you have not truly decided. So whether you're starting, budding, emerging, seasoned, have you decided that you want more? And if you've decided that, you cannot make that decision just in words alone, just because you show up and tell a couple people. No, that's just the start. It's not because you put it on a vision board. That's just the start. Your actions are going to definitively solidify that you have made a decision, that you have work to do in the world, you have legacy to create, and you have lives to impact. So go out in the world and be amazing.
Wow, this is awesome. I mean, I could talk to you all day. I almost hate to end this interview. But again, if you like this interview, again, subscribe, like, most importantly, share with as many people as you possibly can. And you know what? We got to do another one, Cheryl. I got to get you back on because there's so much we still have not unpacked. So we'll pick a date and we'll try to do another one. But this was rich. Thank you so much for sharing your time, your energy, your spirit, your passion with us today. And I look forward to talking to you again real soon. Take care, Dr.
Thank you so
Cheryl
much.
Wood.
And thank you for your bright light in the world, Brother Bedford. I adore you.
Thank you. I love you. Adore you. Talk soon.